Right, let's get into the paper review now, bringing you the headlines across the papers this morning in Nigeria. And we have joining us Ayodele Adio, a social commentator, joining us as usual. Ayodele, good morning.
Good morning. Thank
Nice
you for
to see
having me. Same here.
Right. Now let's begin with the Punch newspaper this morning. Benue, Senate gives the Inspector General of Police 14 days to arrest killer herdsmen, and Buhari lacks political will to halt killings. House of Reps is saying that. Well, ultimatums are now getting into the mix now. I wonder how feasible this is.
Well, it's just going to be wishful thinking for the Senate to expect that the herdsmen will be captured in the next 14 days. I mean, we'll just be guilty of living in the clouds to think that's going to happen. I mean, it's quite unfortunate that these killings happen time after time. No arrests are being made. I mean, you can imagine that a group of mercenaries can run down an entire community, and during the 2, 3, 4 hours that these crimes are being perpetrated, not even a rapid response could have, it's really sad to think about that. I'm glad that the House of Assembly have taken quite a very strong position to call out the president of the lack of political will to deal with these issues decisively, because these issues have to be dealt with decisively. Only yesterday, attacks were also being made again in Taraba State and so on. So we just cannot continue to go over these cycles of killings. It's heartbreaking. Nigerians cannot die like chickens every single day.
Indeed, and it seems that a lot of talk is going majorly into the killings in Benue State, but we're not even talking about the killings in Taraba and those that have been done in Adamawa as well. And
I mean,
of states
I think it's because the governor of Benue is the one shouting the loudest, so I mean, the killings are everywhere. It's happened consistently in Zamfara State, if you'd like. It's happened in Adamawa, it's happened in Taraba, it's gone on, But it's just so sad that there has not been a real deliberate response to nip these things or these issues in the bud. And if we don't, like I always like to argue, if we don't, we're just going to have a country where you have warlords ruling territories upon territories.
And that's the fear, really, that they're saying
really
that they're playing politics.
This is even not about politics. I mean, if you cannot keep the peace within your country, within your territory, then there's a real problem at the end of the day. Because, I mean, the excuses you give, for the herdsmen who started to bear arms, because for many years, farmers, they've been having clashes, people have been rustling their cows, they kill them, they steal their cows, and nothing happens. They go to report to the police. Nothing could be done for that. So at some point, they decided to begin to defend themselves against these cattle rustlers. And it's metamorphosed into something more draconian. So now it's the turn of the farmers who are the receiving end, of the heat from the herdsmen and what have you. Do we have to get to the point where all farmers have to go to their farmlands with AK-47s on their shoulders? What kind of country would we have at that?
There are reports that these herdsmen, the ones that are involved in the killings, are basically, most of them are not originally Nigerians, and many of them are not the ones who even go around with cattle.
Yeah.
They are just the mercenary or the militia arm of, they're just there as contractors and all of that. So they call them in to carry out some of these things, some
if I were in government,
sometimes.
Let me be honest with you, if I were in government, that would be the most simple thing for me to utter in public. Because what I'm saying is, killers can swing in from all of Mauritania, Senegal, Chad, Niger, and coming to my own country, kill my own citizens, and ferry back to their own country. What signal am I giving the entire world? And if I'm totally not in charge of my country, that people coming to this country, I mean, how do you even come on TV to say categorically that these people come from other countries, kill hundreds in your own country,
and leave,
and then they leave,
and nothing happens?
How do you say that before the entire world? I don't get it.
It seems that how it is that if you want to lie, you have to use another lie to cover another lie, and it seems that is what is happening at this time, because a Fulani man, former aviation official, on one of our shows said that for every Fulani man or boy you see herding his cattle anywhere in any part of Nigeria, there are many Fulanis, armed Fulanis, hiding, protecting him, that if anything happens to him, all he has to do is to call them and they will attack any community he points at. So we're not even looking at the bigger picture here.
Listen, you see, sometimes I even get confused because, last December I was in Wamba, where my cousins are from. And of course, they have a farmland in the village. That's Wamba is in Nasarawa State. And just below the farmland, you have a group of herdsmen down there who keep their cattle and their flock, and and usually I go there in the mornings. We go down the hill because there's a fish farm down, and I get to talk with them every now and then. And these people have no guns, have nothing. They just come, they keep their cattle, they graze once in a while, and they migrate, they move. So yes, you have a group of people whose sole business is to move their cows from point A to point B.
That is the original Nigerian Fulani.
That's the original Nigerian
That's the original
Fulani.
Nigerian Fulani.
The question is, and if it's true, that one governor said he traced them out of this country to go and compensate them for the violence that they perpetrated in this country, then we're in some serious trouble. Because what you're saying is that Nigeria can easily be run down from militias from Chad or from Niger or from Cameroon, and your security agencies, the government in which is supposed to protect your interests, cannot do anything about it.
Well,
it's scary.
Ghana is taking a very drastic and decisive action against this herdsmen.
Yes.
In fact, as at yesterday, a report from Ghana showed the government is vehement against it. If we hear anything,
they're carrying arms, shoot at
exactly.
sight.
I mean, that's the government that should be decisive. Listen, we call ourselves the big brother of Africa. There's also a very, very petty, cheeky argument that we like to make that yes, there's an ECOWAS agreement that allows people to move from point A to point B, and then you say you're the big brother of Africa. Convene an ECOWAS meeting and deal with these issues decisively. Laws are meant to be changed every time. If it doesn't favor you, you tweak it.
It's okay. We'll get to see all those. Well, I think those are the headlines from the Punch newspaper. Now, EFCC arraigns ex-FCT minister Akinjide for 650 million naira fraud, and 2017 budget 1.2 trillion naira released for capital projects, says DMO. And then we can't succeed with current political structure. Akande is saying that this brings us back to the issue of restructuring.
Oh, of course. I mean, you can cry over the rooftop, but the truth is Nigerians currently structured cannot make as much progress as it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
There's a problem with our architecture, and we need to own up to it and deal with it decisively.
It's okay. Inflation drops to 14.37% for 11 consecutive months.
Yeah, we're glad to hear that.
Yeah. Let it translate to prosperity for the people. That's what we're saying.
Okay, go to the Nation newspaper. The major story, of course, is on the ultimatum given to the police. Senate gives IG 14 days to fish out Benue killers. Lawmakers present stand to Buhari. Presidency disagrees with CAN. Now, fresh plot against Magu. EFCC not probing Kyari. That's the chief of staff. Very interesting, really. They're saying that Ibrahim Magu did not give directives for some of his men to invade the residence of the chief of staff. That is just a plot to get him sacked.
I mean, then who did?
Exactly.
Who did? I mean, the kind of stories we hear in this country where an attorney general will say he doesn't know how a letter emanated from his own ministry into another. It's the same country where you have the chief of the FCC saying he doesn't know who details certain boys to make certain arrests. I mean, so it's quite comical. And at the end of the day, it's quite insulting to Nigerian people who have to be at the receiving end of all of these shenanigans. I mean, they should treat the Nigerian people with some respect. If you have nothing to say, please don't make any press releases.
And it's even surprising that when all these revelations come out, no heads are rolling. Nothing happens to anyone. No one is prosecuted. No one is punished. No one is queried.
You know, it's the most strange thing I've seen in my entire life. You know, every time I come here, I like to say that if something goes wrong with the morning show, the breakfast show, you know who you're going to be.
Exactly.
To be detailing. It's a simple ABC. If something goes wrong, I mean, at the airport terminal, there's a problem with the flight. You know who you're going to be, to be dealing with at the end of the day. But in government, it just seems like everybody is shielded with some sort of immunity from incompetence, from shenanigans. I just don't get it. People just do things and get away with it. As we speak, 2 months after, I'm close to 2 months after the EFCC was stopped from arresting the former DSS person, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Okay. I mean, after the whole public brawl and the embarrassment.
Since Lawal's removal, nothing has been done to get him.
That's the country we live in.
To think that the EFCC and the DSS are all agencies under the presidency.
Yes. It speaks a lot, really, of the administration. Okay, one feared dead in Edo bomb factory. Very scary story coming out.
It's quite sad.
Okpala,
yes. Quite sad. You know, my heart goes out to the person who died, and of course, at the blast close to your studio a couple of days ago. I tried to reach out to you guys. You were saying
now you mean the gas,
yes,
the gas plant.
Exactly.
Magodo, yeah,
Exactly.
Magodo,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, doctors protest colleague's death from Lassa fever. That's in a Boeing. Very sad. Two doctors died, got infected and died. And these doctors are saying that is unfortunate because they don't have a functional virology center, and brings to mind again the state of the health sector in Nigeria.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable where doctors need to raise placards to deal with health and medical issues. I don't know. Sometimes the state of a nation breaks my heart, completely. And you want to imagine that even Julius Caesar's empire seemed a lot more organized than, present-day Nigeria. I mean, if your healthcare is in jeopardy, if your road systems are in jeopardy, if your educational system are in jeopardy, I wonder what we're preparing for the future of this country. I'm afraid for the generation of the country that is coming after us. I'm really afraid because we're giving these people absolutely nothing.
It's really mind-touching when you hear stories from other, even African countries. You hear of new invention. Even Ghana here, you hear of new invention by universities. You hear of the launching of one of the largest hospitals in West Africa. You hear one of the greatest rail network in Ethiopia and all of that. In Nigeria, it's always something is wrong somewhere. Something is wrong somewhere. Something is not going right, and some. Wow.
It's really sad.
I just wonder when we can open the papers and see something wow. Everyone's going to wow everyone.
What we're busy celebrating and debating usually in Nigeria is who built the railway from Kaduna to Abuja.
Yeah.
That took
Katsina
several
to
years.
Niger, foreign land.
And then we're debating that and we're arguing about that. We're celebrating to the rooftop a 3-kilometer renovation in the Abuja runaway. I mean, we need to grow up.
But the saddest part of it really is that Nigerians are very talented. We've seen some Nigerians, on their own invent some devices, but then they don't even get support from the government.
I mean, it's straightforward. I mean, that's why Nigerians excel when they leave the shores of this country. That's why we top the professionals in America and in the UK. We do excellently well when we get out the shores of the country because those countries provide the enabling environment for you to prosper. But in this country, I mean, what was the dream of Alexander Hamilton in the United States of America, that the child of a nobody can aspire to be something in his life and he'd achieve the American dream? Here, in present-day Nigeria, even if you're a child of a somebody, I mean, if you're a child of a somebody, to even get into positions, it's a problem.
You're going to need somebody.
It's a real problem.
Well, I think that really has to change.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move to the Daily Sun now. Herdsmen massacre, get Benue killers. Senate gives the IG 2 weeks ultimatum. We've talked about that. And the FCT demolishes property linked to Patience Jonathan. This issue is still on for some time. And we have an interesting headline here. Nigeria is not out of recession yet. Ex-CBN Deputy Governor Moghalu says that. That is a revelation that
it's
maybe it's debatable, as one would say.
I mean, technically, if you look at the figures, if you do the arithmetic, the plus and minus, of course we're out of recession. But I think he was looking at the broader issues, the fact that we're still not insulated, from the shocks that could quickly swing us back into recession. Because I tell you, I kid you not, if by tomorrow morning the price of crude drops in the international market,
anything can still happen.
We're back into Egypt. I tell you sincerely. Or if there's a pipeline problem now in the south, or a few boys get angry because they've not been settled, we're back to square one at the end of the day. So our economy has not built the resilience and
to absorb the shock.
Yeah, the dependence is still solely, on the price of crude in the international market and the production that we make locally in our own country. So I see that that's the larger point that he's trying to make. And until we move away from that point, we'll just be blinking in the dark.
All right, we have 2019 elections shouldn't be a distraction, Saraki warns. More politicians are coming out to say, I'm going to contest, I'm going to run in 2019. And it seems there's a lot of politics in the air already.
Oh yes, of course, you can't run away from distractions. Primaries are going to be up in August.
In August, exactly.
So of course, everything, trust me, anything in governance now is strictly about the politics. Sure. Unfortunately, and I hope that the government of the day really understands that some of the decisions, some of the actions and the inactions will have electoral consequences. And except they seat up, remember that that Benue, for instance, had always gone to PDP over the years since 1999. It went to the APC in 2015. If you have failed these people consistently, I mean, you never can tell where they're going to swing in the next election.
Exactly.
So it's going to have electoral consequence. And except they seat up, I'm sorry, states like Plateau that went to the APC, that were always conventional PDP states. The pendulum just could swing if they don't do something about it. And you trust politicians, they are going to campaign on these issues.
Of course.
You know, that you fail to protect the lives and properties of people. And so
and there are lots of points really to
exactly.
to
So
harp
except
on
the
this
government
time.
of the day
Their
sits
campaign
up,
grounds, of course.
it's going to be really sad.
Okay, so we'll go to this day newspaper. Expectedly, it's the same story that is the major story on the front page. Senate gives IG 14 days to arrest perpetrators of Benue killings. House wants states of emergency declared on insecurity. Ms. Saman Buhari, Saraki, others meet with president on crisis. So, moving away from that, atop the masthead of this day, FCT demolishes Patience Jonathan's property, of course, in Abuja.
I don't think she would cry over that. If you know what I know, and we have a fair idea. She will be crying over that, I mean.
All right, so why the office, ONSA, that's the Office of the National Security Advisor, ordered movement of $44 million belonging to NRA to safety house to probe removal of funds from agencies of vault. That was a story that broke out a few days ago.
Now, of course, since the House are going to do due diligence on that, we hope nobody's running to court to stop the House from investigating that. And hopefully, let's see what they come out with. I know it's not just the usual committee sitting. And I mean, there has to come a time in this country where we have to do less of talking and more of action, because we've talked and talked since 1960, and talking hasn't led us anywhere. We've become a country of excellent speakers, and very little thing is being achieved. Now is the time to act, and we have to act decisively. So whether you're a committee member in the House of Assembly or you're in the Senate, you should know that talking is not just it, it's just a means, and you need to get results. Nigerians want results, and we want them now. So people need to begin to act, and not just and talk cheaply, you know. It's just sound bites to me.
All right, so another story here. EFCC quizzes former Plateau Governor Jang. That was the story.
I mean, his case is just endless. I mean, from one court injunction to the other.
To the other.
Yes.
And it's been dragging for some time now. Okay, the last but not the least is a Vanguard newspaper. Nigeria being painted red with blood. Dogara, the Speaker of the House of Reps, is saying that motion seeking state of emergency on security moved by reps. He urges the executive lawmakers to stop politicking now ahead of 2019. Benue Senate gives IGP 14 days to arrest perpetrators and sponsors. And Senate ready to help find solutions, says Saraki. And Khan, the Christian Association of Nigeria, wants Mieti Allah tagged a terrorist organization.
I mean, I understand the flow of emotions, but of course it will be, I mean, it will be somewhat dangerous just to tag the Mieti Allah itself, a terrorist organization. But here's what I do think. Unfortunately for me, I do not see a grand plan, a grand architecture to deal with these issues holistically. And that's my real fear, because you have to connect all of the dots for you to be able to deal with these issues. You have to be able to connect the porousness of our borders to climate change, to the internal security apparatus, to the fact that, of course, these herdsmen, of course, livestock have been abandoned in government policy over the years, to the grazing reserves of the government that have been covered and been abandoned since 1965. You need to look at all of these issues holistically and begin to deal with them individually until they come up to a sum. But unfortunately, I think what we're doing is staring at the ant and ignoring the elephant at the end of the day. So if you don't deal with climate change, if you don't deal with those issues in the climate change and put up a huge irrigation system in the northeast or in the northern part of the country, you can't stop these people from moving down the middle belt where their farms are, their cattle are going to graze. You can't stop that. You can't, if you don't deal with our porous borders, you can't stop people from coming in from Niger and Chad into our country like you're strolling from Lagos to Ibadan at the end of the day. If you don't deal with the fact that, you know, small arms are running around our country, you will not be able to deal with these issues of these deaths that we see every single day. So it's not just that I'm going to put a security team you know, at the boundaries of Benue, in Logo or in Goma, and then the crisis is going to end.
Exactly.
That's just being simplistic. There's a whole lot of issues underneath.
There are more issues
that you have to deal with. And
In
unfortunately,
fact,
I don't see
they've
the
just moved
government
to another
doing that.
state.
I mean,
And that's what is happening.
And that's what we keep relocating
well,
the problem.
They will relocate. The point there is, if you're saying, okay, like you put it, if you're putting security guards around Guma and Logo, there are other places. They know this thing, they move away to Katsina or Kwande local government or other places.
So I mean, we just need to start to deal with fundamental and stop treating the symptoms in this country. We need to look at the fundamental issues driving these insecurity challenges and deal with them decisively. If we don't do that, I tell you, in 2-3 years from now, if people cannot farm in the food basket of the nation,
there's going to be major crisis.
It's going to be major
Exactly,
food
and that is what we're not
looking at. And then
looking
we'll
at.
be running around. At that time, I'll show
Food
you, we'll be looking for fertilizer and when you ignored the real issues that was going to lead to food insecurity.
And that is what farmers are saying, really, not just farmers, those tilling the land, but fish farmers, other kinds of farmers, saying that one aspect of farming is not more important than the other aspects. So if you want to give attention to the cattle rearing in Nigeria, you have to give to other aspects of farming as well.
I do agree with that argument completely. That I mean, it's not just the agronomy's part of it. You need to deal with all of the issues. That's why I also argue, of course, that these herds, these herdsmen who actually provide beef that we all eat. I mean, Lagos consumes about 7,000 cattle a day. We all need the protein, if you like. We also need to create policies that actually, that actually helps them also improve their own productivity at the end of the day. So you need to look at these issues holistically, treat everybody, as a
I think beyond all of this, the owners of the cattle have to know that there are better ways, modern ways of grazing these things to even for optimum productivity of the cows. Nigerian cows are one of the most malnourished in the world. The Minister of Agriculture has stated that before.
Oh, yes.
You're moving from place to place is not the way anymore. Of course. Brazil, there are cattle rearing in Brazil, even in Britain, in the UK.
As far as the Netherlands.
Exactly, in the Netherlands. There are better ways of doing this thing. Even in India, there are.
Ranches.
It's all right.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Ayodele,
Thank you.
social commentator. Thank you for coming in.
All right, then.
Thank you very much.